Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Chris from the Third Coast Craftsman, and in this video, I'm gonna be building this lumber scrap cart. Now it's a really easy project. I have plans for it down in the description. This is an 8-foot long version, but in those plans, I also have a 4-foot long version for people that don't have quite as much space. This thing's been really nice so far. I have all my cutoffs stored in these bins in the front. I have some cubbies in the side, and on the back, there's plenty of room for plywood. Ootsy, here's my shop partner Oots hiding over there. Get out of here. And if you have one of those 4-foot versions and you have some longer pieces of plywood that's longer than 4 feet, you can still store them vertically and they're held up on this side, no problem. I'm also going to show you in this video how I built this vertical lumber storage system over here. My local hardwood dealer has something just like this. I've always liked it. It makes getting boards super easy. You don't have to take multiple boards that are laying horizontal off of the board you're looking for. You can just shuffle through the boards really easy to get to what you're after. Super easy. And you've got some really nice slab storage here and all sorts of good stuff. So let's get started. The first step is to make the base, and I cut my 2x4s and screw them together to make the frame for the base. Then I'm going to lay a sheet of plywood down on some foam insulation and cut that out with my circular saw. If you don't have a table saw, this is a great way to cut plywood, and even if you do have a table saw, sometimes it's just easier to cut it on the ground like this. A track saw is ideal, but I don't have one of those, and I've had enough practice lately with the circular saw building this new shop of mine that I was able to just snap a line and cut pretty accurately to that line. You can also make a straight line guide for your circular saw as well. After I screw the plywood top to the frame, I flip it over and screw some short 2x6 boards to the bottom that I will screw my casters into. I use the cutoff from the bottom piece and screw it to one side to make the front edge of what will be my vertical scrap boxes. Then using the table saw, I cut several strips that I'll use to secure the center A-frame section to the base and also use those to support the shelves in that A-frame. I then add a 5-degree angle to my saw and run all those strips through again to match the 5-degree angle that my center section will be. Again, you can use a circular saw to make these angled cuts. It's just a lot easier doing several in a row on a table saw like this. I lay out the spacing of my shelves and snap a chalk line so that I can glue and brad nail those shelf supports in their spots. Once both sides are done, I can attach them to the angle supports that I nailed down to the base. It's not very strong like this, but once I attach the dividers of the vertical scrap bins, it'll really strengthen the whole thing up. Then I can begin adding the shelves. I cut them on the table saw, then tack them into place with a brad nailer, then I screw them in from the sides. And like I mentioned before, there's plans to this project as well as a lot of other projects over at my website. If you're interested in shop projects like this, make sure you subscribe because I have a few really cool shop projects coming up. I'm going to be doing a cool outfeed table, a cool assembly table, and there's also a series on turning this dirt floor uninsulated pole barn into my dream shop. So if you're interested in that, make sure you go to my website and check those videos out. Now I'm going to start making the vertical scrap bins. I check to make sure my angle is correct and use it as a template to cut out all my pieces. Then I'll draw out a nice shape that I like and cut it on the bandsaw, but you can also use a jigsaw for this. Once everything is cut out, I'll just use some pocket holes to secure all my dividers to the cart. Then I take some of my leftover plywood so that I can further divide that vertical scrap section. I seem to have a ton of small cutoffs and I don't like throwing those away, and I really wanted this type of storage and a lot of it and a good way to organize it. So once they're all installed, I can start filling it all up. I then added some handles, which really helps being able to roll this thing around. And the one side is left open for storing plywood. Now I'm going to build all my vertical lumber storage, and there's just so many benefits to having vertical lumber storage. Not only does it make getting your boards so much easier, but it doesn't have to support nearly as much weight as the weight of the boards are actually supported by the ground. Now, if it's freshly cut green lumber, you're going to want to sticker and store them on a perfectly flat horizontal surface while they dry out. Otherwise, they might twist and warp on you. But for me, with dry lumber and in my situation with my tall ceilings, I don't see any disadvantages to storing them vertically. To make these, I'm just taking some 2x4s and I'm cutting them in half, but I'm leaving them full width at the end where they're going to attach to the frame member. I notch out the frame member to create a kind of lap joint where I will glue and screw the shorter boards to that frame member. I'm mounting this at an angle and plan on putting taller boards in the back and progress down to shorter boards in the front. You could, however, make this rack level and it would work just fine too. I also plan on adding some hooks and chains at the end of each one of those boards to prevent my vertical boards from falling out. I do have kids that are down here sometimes, and it's just a good safety measure. To utilize the space most effectively in my shop, I'm adding a second lumber rack that comes off the adjacent wall and is parallel to the first rack. This will give me a total of 3 rows of storage, and it also takes up way less space than if these were horizontal lumber racks or if they were just continuously running along a wall.